Hello there, future food safety officers. I want to talk to you about something truly fascinating and incredibly important. It's a subject that sits at the very heart of your future profession. We are going to delve into the unseen world of toxic substances in our food. Now, this might sound a bit alarming, but I promise you, understanding this is your greatest tool. Your role is not just about checking use-by dates or measuring refrigerator temperatures. It is about protecting the public from dangers they cannot see, taste, or smell. You are the guardians of our plates, the scientific detectives ensuring that every meal is not just delicious, but fundamentally safe. This knowledge will empower you to make critical decisions that safeguard the health of millions. Think about the journey our food takes. It starts in a field, a farm, or a factory, and travels through a long, complex chain before it reaches our kitchens. At every single step of this journey, there is a potential for contamination. These contaminants, or toxic substances, can be anything from naturally occurring toxins in plants to man-made chemicals used in farming or processing. Understanding what these substances are, where they come from, and how our bodies deal with them is not just academic, it is a practical necessity for your job. It is the difference between simply following a rulebook and truly comprehending the why behind every regulation, every safety standard, and every inspection you will ever conduct. The human body, I must say, is a remarkable machine. It has an incredibly sophisticated system for dealing with foreign chemicals, a process we call metabolism. This internal detoxification plant works tirelessly to break down and remove harmful compounds. However, this system can be overwhelmed. Sometimes the very process of breaking a substance down can accidentally make it even more dangerous. This is where your expertise comes in. By grasping the basics of toxicology and metabolism, you can better predict risks, understand a food recall notice, and explain the importance of food safety regulations to businesses and the public with confidence and authority. In this guide, we will break it all down. We will explore the main culprits, pesticides, heavy metals, and even some food additives. We will look at how they get into our food supply and, crucially, what happens once they get inside us. We will demystify complex terms like biotransformation and xenobiotics and turn them into practical knowledge you can use. This is not about memorizing facts for an exam. It is about building a deep, lasting understanding that will make you a more effective, more insightful, and ultimately more successful food safety officer. So let's get started on this vital journey together. The hidden dangers in our food. So, what exactly are we talking about when we use the term toxic substances? In the simplest terms, a toxic substance or toxin is any chemical that can cause harm to a living organism. The old saying, "the dose makes the poison," is absolutely key here. Even water can be toxic in enormous quantities. But for our purposes as food safety officers, we are focused on substances that can cause harm at the levels they might be found in food. These unwanted guests can come from a surprising number of places. They are not always the result of a sinister plot. Often they are byproducts of modern life, agriculture, and food production. These substances fall into two broad categories, natural and man-made. The natural toxins might surprise you. They include things like mycotoxins, which are produced by molds that can grow on crops like grains and nuts. Then there are toxins found in certain plants, like the glycoalkaloids in green potatoes. Nature isn't always benign. On the other hand, we have the man-made or anthropogenic substances. This group includes industrial chemicals that can leach into the water supply, residues from veterinary drugs given to animals, and of course, the pesticides used to protect crops from insects and weeds. Both types pose a significant challenge for food safety. The term you will often encounter in your studies is xenobiotic. It sounds complicated, but it simply means a substance that is foreign to a living organism's body. Our bodies have evolved to metabolize the nutrients in our food, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but they haven't necessarily evolved to handle synthetic pesticides or industrial pollutants. When we ingest these xenobiotics, our body has to figure out what to do with them. This is where the risk comes in. If the body cannot neutralize and excrete them efficiently, they can start to cause damage to our cells, tissues, and organs, leading to a wide range of health problems. Understanding the sources is your first step in prevention. If you know that a certain type of fish is prone to accumulating mercury from polluted waters, you can understand the basis for advisories for pregnant women. If you know that aflatoxins thrive in warm, humid storage conditions for peanuts, you can see why proper storage is a critical control point. Your job is to be aware of these potential hazards, from the farm to the factory, from the packaging plant to the supermarket shelf. You are the expert who connects the source of the toxin to the potential risk for the consumer, making the entire food chain safer for everyone. Now let's talk about metabolism. When most people hear that word, they think about weight loss or how quickly they burn calories. But in the world of toxicology, metabolism has a much more specific and profound meaning. It refers to the chemical processes your body uses to change substances, particularly those foreign xenobiotics we just discussed. The primary goal of this process, known as biotransformation, is to convert fat-soluble chemicals into water-soluble chemicals. Why is this so important? Because water-soluble compounds are much easier for our bodies to get rid of, primarily through our urine. Our kidneys are brilliant at filtering water-soluble waste from the blood. This amazing detoxification process mainly happens in the liver. Think of your liver as the body's main chemical processing plant. It is packed with specialized enzymes that act like tiny workers on a production line, tasked with modifying foreign chemicals. This process generally occurs in two distinct phases. Phase 1 reactions are the first step. Here, enzymes, most famously the cytochrome P450 family, make a small chemical change to the toxin. They might add an oxygen atom, for example. This is like sticking a handle onto a slippery ball, making it easier to grab onto in the next stage. It prepares the toxin for the next step of the process. After phase 1, the molecule moves on to phase 2 reactions. In this stage, the body attaches a larger water-soluble molecule to the toxin at the handle, created in phase 1. This process is called conjugation. It's like attaching a big, buoyant life jacket to the substance. This makes the original toxin much more water-soluble and in most cases much less biologically active or harmful. Once this is done, the newly transformed non-toxic compound can be efficiently transported out of the liver, into the bloodstream, filtered by the kidneys, and finally excreted from the body in urine or bile. It's a truly elegant and effective system for self-defense. However, there is a crucial twist. Sometimes, the phase 1 reaction can accidentally make a substance more toxic. This is called bioactivation. The intermediate compound produced in phase 1 can be more reactive and damaging than the original substance it came from. The body then relies on phase 2 to quickly neutralize this new threat. If the phase 2 process is slow or overwhelmed, this highly reactive intermediate can hang around and cause damage to cells, including our DNA. This is a fundamental concept in toxicology and explains why the balance between phase 1 and phase 2 is so critical for our health and safety. Pesticides are a perfect case study for understanding xenobiotics. These are substances deliberately designed to be toxic to specific living things, insects, fungi, or weeds, to protect our crops and increase food yields. The challenge is that they can also be harmful to us if we are exposed to them in sufficient quantities. They can get into our food as residues left on the surface of fruits and vegetables, or they can be absorbed into the plant itself. From there, they enter the food chain. As a food safety officer, understanding the different types of pesticides and their risks is absolutely essential for your role in monitoring and enforcing safety limits. Let's take a common class of insecticides, the organophosphates. These chemicals work by attacking the nervous system of insects. Unfortunately, they can have a similar effect on humans. Their primary source of exposure for the general public is through residues on food crops. When we ingest an organophosphate pesticide, our liver's phase 1 enzymes, particularly the cytochrome P450 system, get to work. In a classic example of that dangerous bioactivation we just discussed, these enzymes can convert the organophosphate into a much more potent form called an oxon. This new molecule is highly effective at disrupting nerve signals. This newly activated oxon molecule then causes its toxic effect, which is neurotoxicity. It works by inhibiting an essential enzyme in our nervous system called acetylcholinesterase. This enzyme's job is to break down a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger called acetylcholine. When the enzyme is blocked, acetylcholine builds up and continuously stimulates the nerves, leading to a cascade of symptoms from muscle twitching to more severe outcomes. Our body's phase 2 system desperately tries to detoxify these compounds, but high exposure can overwhelm these defenses. This is why strict regulatory limits, known as maximum residue limits, or MRLs, are set for pesticides in food. Your job involves ensuring these MRLs are not exceeded. You will need to understand that some pesticides can accumulate in the fatty tissues of animals and humans, a process called bioaccumulation. This means that even low levels of exposure over a long time can lead to a buildup in the body. Vulnerable populations, such as children and pregnant women, are at greater risk because their metabolic systems are not as fully developed, making them less efficient at detoxifying these chemicals. Understanding these pathways, from the chemical's action to the body's response, is what allows you to appreciate the profound importance of the regulations you enforce. Unlike pesticides, heavy metals like lead, mercury, and cadmium are not something we create for a purpose. They are naturally occurring elements. The problem arises when industrial activities, such as mining, manufacturing, and burning fossil fuels, release them into the environment. From there, they contaminate our soil and water. This is how they find their way into our food chain. They can be taken up by plants grown in contaminated soil, or accumulate in the bodies of fish and livestock. Heavy metals are particularly insidious because they are persistent. They don't break down in the environment or in our bodies, which makes them a long-term threat. Let's look at lead as an example. Lead is a potent neurotoxin, meaning it is especially damaging to the brain and nervous system. There is no safe level of lead exposure, particularly for children, whose developing brains are incredibly susceptible to its effects. Exposure can come from various food sources, including crops grown in contaminated soil, or historically, from lead-soldered cans. Once ingested, lead is absorbed into the bloodstream. It mimics calcium, which tricks the body into incorporating it into bones and teeth. This is a form of bioaccumulation, where it can be stored for decades, leaching out slowly over time and causing chronic health problems. The body has a very difficult time metabolizing heavy metals. They are elements, so they cannot be broken down by phase 1 or phase 2 enzymes in the way that an organic pesticide can be. The body's main defense is to try and bind them to specific proteins, like metallothionein, to sequester them and reduce their immediate toxicity. It then attempts to excrete them, primarily through the kidneys into urine or via bile into the feces. However, this process is often very slow and inefficient. This is why heavy metals can build up in the body over a lifetime, leading to chronic toxicity that affects the kidneys, bones, and nervous system. For a food safety officer, the key is control at the source and monitoring. This means understanding which foods are at high risk. For instance, large predatory fish like shark and swordfish are known to accumulate high levels of mercury. Leafy greens grown near industrial sites might have higher levels of lead or cadmium. Regulatory bodies set maximum levels for these metals in different foods to protect consumers. Your role is to understand these risks, know the regulations, and be involved in the surveillance and testing that ensures these invisible but dangerous contaminants are kept out of the public's diet as much as possible. Food additives are a fascinating and often controversial topic. These are substances added to food intentionally to perform a specific function. They might be used to preserve freshness, like sulfites in wine, to enhance flavor, like monosodium glutamate, or MSG, or to improve color and texture, like many food dyes. Most food additives used today have undergone extensive safety testing and are considered safe at their approved levels of use. For each approved additive, a crucial figure is determined: the acceptable daily intake, or ADI. This is the amount of a substance that can be consumed daily over a lifetime without presenting an appreciable health risk. The metabolism of food additives varies widely depending on their chemical structure. Many are simple compounds that the body can easily handle. For example, some additives are metabolized just like normal food components and are used for energy. Others are designed to pass through the body completely unchanged, being excreted without ever being absorbed. However, some additives do need to be processed by the liver's detoxification system. They undergo the same phase 1 and phase 2 reactions we've discussed. The goal of safety assessments is to ensure that even at maximum consumption levels, these metabolic pathways are not overwhelmed. Let's consider an example like certain artificial food colorings. Some of these are azo dyes. When consumed, bacteria in our gut and enzymes in our liver can break them down. This phase 1-like reaction can split the azo dye into smaller molecules called aromatic amines. Some of these amines are known to be potentially harmful, so the safety of any food coloring depends on the body's ability to rapidly detoxify these breakdown products through phase 2 conjugation and excrete them before they can cause any damage. This is why regulatory agencies conduct such rigorous toxicological studies before approving a new additive for use in our food. Your role as a food safety officer is to ensure that food producers are using only approved additives and are using them within the legally specified limits. You are the enforcer of the ADI concept. While individual sensitivities and allergies to certain additives do exist, the regulatory framework is designed to protect the general population. Understanding that additives are assessed based on their toxicology and metabolism helps you to respond to public concerns with facts, not fear. It allows you to explain that the system of ADIs, backed by scientific research, is our primary tool for ensuring these useful ingredients don't pose a risk to public health. So, there we have it. We've journeyed through the complex world of pesticides, heavy metals, and food additives. We have seen how these xenobiotics can enter our food supply and what our remarkable bodies do to defend against them. The key takeaway is that the principles of toxicology and metabolism are not just abstract science. They are the foundation of modern food safety. They explain why we have rules and regulations. They provide the rationale behind maximum residue limits for pesticides and acceptable daily intakes for additives. This knowledge transforms you from an inspector into a true public health professional, capable of understanding the risks at a molecular level. Before you go, here are 10 key exam-focused points to remember. 1. Xenobiotics, any substance foreign to the body that requires metabolism. 2. Biotransformation, the body's process of changing chemicals, mainly in the liver. 3. Phase 1 reactions, often involve cytochrome P450 enzymes, prepare toxins for phase 2. 4. Phase 2 reactions, conjugation step, makes toxins water-soluble for excretion. 5. Bioactivation, the dangerous process where a phase 1 reaction makes a chemical more toxic. 6. Bioaccumulation, the buildup of substances, like heavy metals or some pesticides, in body tissues over time. 7. Neurotoxicity, a key risk of substances like lead and organophosphate pesticides that damage the nervous system. 8. Acceptable daily intake, or ADI, the safety threshold for food additives, crucial for regulation. 9. Vulnerable populations, children, pregnant women, and the elderly are at higher risk due to differences in metabolism. 10. Regulatory limits. MRLs and other official limits are your most important tools for ensuring public safety. Your journey to becoming a food safety officer is a challenging but immensely rewarding one. The public places an enormous amount of trust in you and the system you uphold. They trust that the food they buy for their families is safe, and it is your job to ensure that trust is well placed. By mastering these fundamental concepts, understanding how a toxin gets into food, what it does to the body, and how the body fights back, you equip yourself with the scientific literacy needed to make informed judgments every single day. You will be able to assess risks, interpret lab reports, and enforce regulations with confidence. Never forget the why behind your work. Every sample you test, every facility you inspect, and every regulation you enforce is connected to the health and well-being of your community. Your understanding of the metabolism of toxic substances is a powerful shield that protects countless people from unseen harm. It is a critical skill set that elevates your role and reinforces the vital importance of science in public health. Keep learning, stay curious, and be proud of the crucial mission you are about to undertake. The safety of our food is in your capable hands.